So, hello everyone, this is Mohit Chhabra. So, first of all, I would like to welcome you all to the for this session. Uh, I think it's been a long day for most of you because it's started since morning that we have back-to-back sessions on different topics, especially on Azure. So today is the first day of Azure Bootcamp, and I think it was quite productive day for you. If you basically were working for the whole day, then I'm really thankful for you to join this session in the evening. And if you're basically running the whole day in different sessions across different gaps, then again, I want to thank you to join this session because you have already spent a lot of time in learning, and then it's quite late in the evening that you are joining. So it basically takes a lot of effort and a lot of commitment to pull yourself up and then join the session this late in the evening, especially if you're joining from India. And for the people who are joining from different part of the world, I want to thank you as well. This the topic that we are going to talk about is bit niche, and I'm pretty sure it's going to help you out in some way or another in your work. So my name is Mohit Chhabra. I work for a company called Medialesson GmbH in Germany. I'm Microsoft MVP for Azure, and I blog on a site called AzureGuide.in. I've been working with Azure from last 7.5 years now, so I was one of the early adopters of Azure. I own a community called Microsoft Azure for Beginners, which has more than 34,000 Azure enthusiasts. So if you want to learn about Azure or if you have any queries, feel free to join the Facebook community. I'm going to spell it for you. It's Microsoft Azure for in numeric uh, for beginners. So Microsoft Azure for beginners, therefore, is in numeric. So talking about my work, uh, I'm presently helping my clients basically to move from on-prem to Azure, and I've been helping my clients in this kind of situations from last few years. But when I started a few years back, one of the things that I used to hear from my clients that when we used to go there and say that we it's time to move you to cloud or it's time to set up cloud enterprise for you, they were not very happy about going to the cloud. And the biggest reason that they used to say, or they were reluctant of moving to cloud before because of it's because of security. So they were not sure that how their workloads will be secured in cloud. Fast forward few years later, here we are sitting now. The people are using cloud because it's much more secure than their on-premises systems. And today, what we are going to do is we are going to look into how their on-premises system can be secured via tools or the services provided by Azure. So we have to agree on one thing that with the generation, the time that we are living in, it's a era of transformation. The businesses are changing. The kind of applications that we used to have are changing. The data is growing rapidly, and every company right now is a technological company. We have to move, or we need to have an IT department in every company. There is not even a single company now which does not require an IT department or which does not require some sort of softwares or associated for their business work. And and this makes it more and more difficult for the users to uh, this makes it more and more difficult for everyone, especially security professionals, to secure the environment because the kind of infrastructure is changing, the kind of applications are changing, and keeping up to date with with the changes is quite difficult. Also, as a company, it's pretty difficult to find the right talent. When I say right talent, I mean about security professionals. There are very few people currently who understand that how the security works. Whereas there are a lot of people who can can Google about best practices or basically can see how things should be done, but to the core of it, there are very few people who understand what is security and how does it work. So it's become more and more challenging for the companies to hire the right talent to make sure that they are one step ahead from the hackers, uh, to make sure that their environment is safe and secure. Having said that, there are, apart from security, there are regulatory compliance requirements as well. So there is a saying that as an IT or a security guy, basically, one people that you have more that you're more afraid of the compliance side than from the hackers. So it's more trained to basically deal with the compliance guys than to deal with the hackers, actual hackers, because it's quite difficult to assess the environment in such a way that you're able to make it fully compliant with different kind of certifications to make sure that your environment is set up in a proper manner. Having said that, the security that we talk about is basically dependent on multiple things. So the first is basically we have the identity and access management, which means securing your user accounts, or protection, which means stopping the attacks from outside world and making sure that your infrastructure or user accounts or any sort of environment is secure. Third thing is information protection, which means that we have to make sure that the classified information is not going out of the company. And fourth thing is cloud security. That means securing your cloud based environments. Now, I've been talking about that we have moved to a situation where there is a heterogeneous or a hybrid environment. So, what is a hybrid environment? So, let me take a step back and talk a bit about it. What used to happen is when I go to any company, when I talk to my clients, none of my clients basically wants all of their servers to move to cloud on the day one. They want to go through that journey of completely moving the on premises, but they want to make sure that they are not breaking anything. Also, they want to make sure that the transition should be smooth without any issues. So, what is the best way of doing it? Is one of the ways that I can suggest is setting up a hybrid cloud. Now, what is hybrid cloud? Hybrid cloud is basically where we are connecting the capabilities of your on-prem database to Azure or any other cloud platform in general. So, if you see this picture, we can have different kind of workloads. It can be web application, you can have virtual machines, you can have your containers running, you can have your storage in the cloud, and then you can have your databases, but you can also have a lot of workloads running on the on-prem as well, which can be your existing workloads indeed. So we need basically a secure way to communicate between your on-prem as well as your cloud resources. Because you cannot just remove or lift and shift your on-prem resources to cloud in one go. It's a long process. If you have 4 servers, it's easy. But what about if you have 4,000 servers in your system? So in that scenario, what we suggest is basically to set up a hybrid cloud infrastructure where you set up a bridge between your private data center and your cloud environment, so that both of them can communicate and then connect to each other. Talking about security, so we are going to use something called Azure. Azure basically spent more than $1 billion annually in the cyber security fund. So that means it's quite important for a cloud platform like Azure to develop tools or services which makes it secure to use the cloud platform, as well as your on-premises, which is connected to the cloud. So they have a team of 3,500 security experts, and then they use apart from the security experts, they highly use AI based tools, which allows you to run through your environment and then give you recommendations on the based on that. Having said that, we all have to understand that security is a shared responsibility. So when you have all your resources on the cloud, in that scenario, the security is a shared responsibility as well. So that means Microsoft is going to take care of your hardware security, they are going to take care of the networking security, but only networking up to the cable level. But if you have a virtual machine, how do you create a network? What ports do you open to your machine? And if you have a public IP address or not, all those things are configurable, and it depends upon your requirement. So as an engineer, you have to understand that, okay, Microsoft is giving me the security, but it's my responsibility to understand that what should be done and why I should take care about security as well. So one of the things, so today we are going to look into few different toolings that we will require to complete our demo, and the root of it is Windows Admin Center. So what is Windows Admin Center? It's basically lightweight browser-based tool, which basically means that it scans your environment. It can get connected to your on-prem systems, and it basically can directly communicate to Azure. Also, you can manage all your servers in from one place. So it's basically a server management tool, which is excellent for managing your on-premises system, but it also gives you the capability to connect to the Azure systems as well. It's basically when you're troubleshooting your environments or you're doing some configurations, you have to RDP into the machines. So it's basically gives you one consolidated view of your whole infrastructure at one place. So one of the things that we discuss is how we can connect about how we can connect the on-premises to Azure. So what we do is basically we extend the on-premises services to Azure in such a way that they both are intermingled, and we can use the power of Azure for different scenarios. So first of them we are going to talk about is I'm just going to give you a high overview of what are the possibilities, and then I'm going to basically go deep into the security aspect of it. So you can basically set up a for the business continuity and disaster recovery, you can set up Azure Site Recovery, Azure Backup, or Storage Replica. If you don't know what these services, you can find out on the docs of Microsoft.com, but I will give you a high level idea. So Azure Backup basically backups your machines or storage, and then Site Recovery basically allows you to recover that storage, recover that backup if you want to basically restore your backup to a actual VM. So it's a saying that backup is easy, but restoring is quite difficult. So we all do periodic backups for our infrastructure, but when it comes to actual DADR, we get a bit confused on what we have to do. So this gives you a quite good UI to assess, where you can assess the UI and then basically recover your services. Another one is basically Azure File Sync or storage migration service, which basically allows you to sync your storage account, your volume drives or shared drives to Azure. From compute, you can have Cloud Witness, or you can create the Azure VM directly from the admin center as well. From networking, you can have network adapter, or you can extend your as well. You can extend your on-premises network to Azure. This is quite important. I am just going to give you one line about it. But if you are working with hybrid cloud, this basically is quite helpful, because this allows you to use the same IP that you are using it in your on-premises system, and you can set up a site-to-site VPN to Azure, and still and move your virtual machines or your servers to Azure, and you will be still be able to use the same IP, because we have understood that there can be multiple places that you might be using that IP for, and then changing that IP into multiple places can be disastrous. So one of the biggest benefits we get from this is basically we can use the same IP and then migrate that IP to Azure. Uh, Talking about security, so we are going to talk about Azure Security Center, and we have the option of using Azure Monitor, which is a monitoring tool in Azure, which can basically you can basically do some automation, like say put some alerts on automation. Like you can say that if the CPU percentage is more than 70%, that means my servers can go down. So just send me a mail or do something. So you can make it very smart with Azure Monitor. And update management is also quite important when it comes to security, if you ask me. Uh, because if you have 2000 servers, if you have 500 servers, that means you need to have a centralized way of updating the OS and patching the OS as well. Right? In those kind of scenarios, we can use SCCM, or you can use basically the update management tool from Windows Admin Center. But what happens with SCCM is basically that it's okay if you use it for your big sites, but what if you have a lot of small sites? In that scenario, you cannot install SCCM into different sites, and it's quite difficult to manage it then. So in those kind of scenarios, I think it gives you a upper edge over SCCM, and from the security point of view, it gives you a consolidated and it makes sure that you have a consistent environment across your organization. If you have the same version of Windows with the same patches, and you're patching up your operating system quite regularly, that means you are already safe from a lot of security threats that you can imagine. And also, if you have similar versions or a limited number of versions of Windows OS in Windows OS running, this makes it easier actually for you as a security professional or someone who is managing it uh, to basically see that okay, you have to support the less number of devices or less number of different type of operating systems. So next is Azure Arc. This is one of the new offerings that during the Ignite sessions, and I think it's one of the best offerings Microsoft has announced for hybrid recently. So what it does is basically it's let you connect uh, your on-premises systems to Azure. What does it mean for me? That means you can govern all your on-prem resources the same way that you were governing it with your your cloud resources. So you make use of Azure blueprints, you can make use of Azure policies, and then use the governance on top of your on-prem resources as well. That means if you put a policy of saying that okay, there should not be a server where we have a public IP address. Then, if you are putting it as a policy, uh, in that scenario, what happened with the on-premises as well? The policies will automatically be applied for those resources as well which are on-premises. So this makes it very crucial when it comes to governance and security, because what happens is you have a consolidated view from one place to manage and assess it. Secondly, if you are compliant, if you are compliant with your policies, it makes it more secure as well for your environment. So if you define the security in such a way that the engineers are not able to basically create potential vulnerabilities into the environment, then it makes it more easier as an engineer to make sure that your systems are secure. So mostly we are going to talk and look into Azure Security Center today, how we can basically connect Azure Security Center with the hybrid cloud. So what is Azure Security Center? Azure Security Center is basically a tool. Uh, it's a software as a service tool by Microsoft. And what it does is basically it helps you to strengthen your security posture. What does it mean? It basically means it scans upon your environment. It can be on-prem environment, or it can be Azure environment, or it basically can be any other cloud provider as well, be it AWS, GCP, Alibaba, or any other. So you can basically use one tool, one consolidated tool to enforce all your security related policies, or to scan or manage your all the policies or security concerns from one place. It basically protects you from different kind of threats. So Azure already identifies what kind of issues which can happen to what kind of security issues which can happen to your workloads, be it a server or be it a storage or be it a on-premises kind of systems, and it gives you the best practices or it runs an algorithm to find what is the most suitable solutions for you. We are going to look into it how it works as well. So how Azure basically helps in a hybrid scenario is, if I talk in a one slide, or because in the previous one we talk about what are the different capabilities Azure provides in a hybrid scenario, but if we talk about from the security point of view, I think from the governance, we talk how Azure policies can help you, and it can be set up via Azure Arc. Azure Update Management basically can help you to make sure that your environment is consistent. Whereas Monitor can basically help you to monitor your environment, and the Security Center will basically act as one sort of security solution for your entire workloads across multiple environments or multiple cloud platforms. So we talk about Azure Security Center. So what it does is basically whether it's your on-prem or your cloud resources, it can be your network, it can be basically IoT devices or containers. It's basically smart enough to secure all of them, or scan and understand all of the cloud native and the on-premises traditional legacy applications as well. But and what it does is basically it detects it detects and basically the malwares, or if there's any Bitcoin mining going on, if someone is trying to penetrate into the network, or if someone is basically trying to hack into your IoT systems, then it basically scans it and gives you the best practices, and also gives you an alert if you have any issues. It also basically, so a lot of people have this misunderstanding of saying that it only works on the Windows system, which is incorrect. So it also gives you the capability of scanning and securing your Linux workloads as well. So talking about hybrid, uh, what we are going to see today as well is we can basically connect your on-prem servers to security center. There are two ways of connecting it, and we are going to discuss both of them. Or you can basically onboard your AWS EC2 instance as well. But for this demo purpose, we are not going to go with AWS. We are only going to stick with our hybrid scenario of on-premises and Azure. So we already discussed about different capabilities of Azure Security Center, but if you want to learn more about it, you can go to the different sessions that is going to go for Azure Security Center. But I'm going to now talk more of the hybrid scenarios in general, with an assumption of that you have some sort of idea or understanding around Azure Security Center in general. So I think we have enough of talking. Uh, it's time to see some demo. So I have set up a Windows Server 2019 machine. I have already started that machine and I'm connected to that machine. So if I go to the root of this server, I've set up something called Windows Admin Center that we just looked into in the slides. So setting up is quite easy. So you have an MFI that you can find on the evaluation center. You can make note of this, or basically if you can Google, this would be the first link that you find if you say download admin center. So if I download it, it basically gives me an MFI, and it's straightforward to set it up, because what it does is I'm going to go through the setup once, but I'm not going to complete the setup because I've already set it up. So it basically runs on port 443, and you generate a SSL certificate for it. You can generate your own certificate, or you can basically and then import that certificate, or you basically can tell this tool to generate it for you. I'm not going to do that because everything is working fine for me. So, and it's a simple process of setting up by clicking on these few next buttons, and then you're done. So once you are done, you will have this UI open. So you have to log into this URL that you will see after once you complete your setup as well. In the last screen of your setup, you will see the URL that your admin center is set up on. And I'm connecting to my Azure server. So I get all the full details of my server at one place, that it's running which operating system, what is the disk space, what is the RAM, or how my CPU is performing, how my memory is performing, how my Ethernet is performing, what kind of load I'm getting, and all that stuff at one place. But also, you get capabilities of looking into the performance, or setting up the firewall for these servers, or as simple as managing the certificates commonly from one place as well. So, if you are not familiar with Windows Admin Center, I highly recommend you to basically check it out. You can change your registry settings as well from one place, but I'm not going to go into details of that because that would be another session on its own. What we are going to look into is this little option right here as your hybrid services. It's going to take some time to load it. Let me click on Discover Azure Services. It's getting an error to discover. Sometimes it happens, but no issues. What it does basically is give you all the options of what are the capabilities that Azure provides that you can basically use with on-premises at one place. But all of these options are basically part of this menu bar on the disk tools toolbars as well. So we have to basically connect it to Azure Security Center. Now, are you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay. Sorry for the technical issues. I'm going to take a minute to recap myself. Because if my screen was frozen and you were still on the admin center, then you basically have missed how do we connect the security center with the uh, on-premises or hybrid environment. So I'm not going to go back and explain what are the different options in Security Center because you will find enough tutorials about it and you can learn about it later. But I'm going to talk about how we basically can connect the on-premises servers to Security Center. So you basically come to Security Solutions and then click on this non-Azure servers, and here you basically connect to your workspace. This is Log Analytics workspace. I have already set it up, but if you don't set it up, you could just click on this add a new workspace and then put on your information of the name and where you want to host this workspace and then create and it will be visible here. I already have one VM connected to it that I used before, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another server to it. So adding the server, there are two possibilities. One is I can download this Windows agent or the agent for Linux, and it's just an MSI. If you see here, I've already downloaded it. So I agree. Location. So if I go back, you can connect to your OMS or the SCOM as well into your systems. But I'm not going to do that for this setup. Once this is set up, it will basically ask me for this workspace ID and the primary key. The ID basically is a unique key associated with my log analytics workspace, which tells me which tells the server to send the logs to the specific workspace. And the primary key basically gives you the authorization to send those logs to the workspace. So our security agents or security recommendation will basically will run on top of those logs to understand and analyze your environment. But this is the easy way of doing it. There is another way, which is more recommended from my side, is going back to my server and going back to the admin center. It's here, sorry, over here. Now, I want what you can do is you can directly connect this admin center from your on-premises, from your Windows Admin Center to Azure Security Center, all different services like Azure Backup, Azure File Sync, Azure Monitor. So you basically can back up your on-prem servers to Azure and then restore from there, or you can use the File Sync, or you can use Azure Monitor from here. But let us basically connect it to Azure Security Center. So let me sign in into Azure. So how it works is basically I have to copy this code, enter the code on the side. So it's basically if you have already worked on PowerShell or command line tools, this is how you authenticate. The code is generated for you for that moment, and then you authenticate the code to for the device to basically use your account to use your subscriptions for Azure. I'm going to authorize this admin center to access my Azure subscription, and it says that I'm authorized now. So it found out the different Active Directories. So just to be sure, I will go back to my Azure subscription to find the subscription ID so that I don't select the wrong one and then we have issues later on to figure out why I'm not able to see it over there. So GOA7363. Oops, sorry. I think it's this one, if I'm not wrong. Where's my tenant ID? Let me go back to Azure AD. Yeah, it's a DB. This one DB7B4. So I think that's the right one. DB7B4. Yep. So we create a new application for this security center. We are now connected to AD. But what we have to do is grant us permission, the admin permission to analyze your environment in AD. So we created this application, but we have to give this admin privileges to assess our environment. So we give this permission, come back here. Now I'm going to sign in with my Azure credentials, and this should be updated shortly. Let me refresh the screen. It takes basically a minute to retrieve the information and the for the security center to show or update in this UI. So already see it's connected because we don't have enough data right now. There is no recommendations or no errors generated, but you get the idea that basically once it starts scanning and then it has enough data, it will give you the recommendations or issues associated with the server and the errors that it generated through the server. So similarly, you can manage your multiple devices and then see it from one place, or you don't even have to basically go to your Azure portal. You can see all of the stuff from here. But if you want more recommendations or detailed, you can directly go to the click on this, and then you will directly redirect it to the Azure portal to the desired security center account. So this was basically about security center. I'm going to take a few more minutes and then talk about if you have to use Azure policies, how you can use Azure policies. So via this, so I already talked about something called Azure Arc for servers. So what you can do is once this is connected, it gives you a UI to connect this server. So I can directly view this server in Azure. Before that, you can directly create this Azure Arc resources from your Azure portal as well. and then you can onboard the servers from your portal, or you can connect to your Windows Admin Center because we have already dedicated connected to my Azure Arc account in the same subscription. So if I go back, show you my Azure Arc over here. So basically, is currently giving you to manage your servers. You can also manage your Kubernetes or data applications as well, but those are in previews as well. So you have to sign up differently for those previews. I haven't done it for this subscription, but I have enabled it for another subscription that I use. Uh, if I click on manage servers, see the machine here, and then I can access all the logs or the policies that I have assigned from here. We used to use as a for the security hardening. We used to use GPOs, so you can assign GPOs from here itself. All those policies can be a part of that you are putting it in your domain controllers, or you're putting it as a GPOs, putting it as a group level or domain level or local level. You can put all those policies as well as the policies associated with the governance of Azure or the cloud resources as well here. And I think it's quite useful to understand this if you're already working on policies from last 10 years. I think it's good time to learn about Azure policies as well because it gives you a marketable quick understanding of basically that how you can apply policies across multiple environments. Now previously you were only managing some servers. Now you can manage your whole environments, whether it's a hybrid setup or a multi-cloud setup as well. So do check it out. I am just going to few recommended policies or give you an idea of what kind of inbuilt policies are there or how you can basically create your own policies to secure. So it says that my server is non-compliant because the policies that you have that Windows Defender Spur Guard is not enabled. So we have to enable Windows Defender onto the machine, which is not enabled. So it audited it and then found that this is not compliant. And this, if you see, this is my on-premises system that we have worked on. So it look for the compliance status of it look for the compliance status of my on-premises or hybrid workload as well, and it gives you recommendations. Also, if I see the definition, this policy basically it's nothing but a ARM template of it. If you are not familiar with ARM, then you basically should learn about ARM, which is the native Azure language written in JSON. So it says audit if not edges, and then it say look into the virtual machines or see if the Windows Defender is set up or not. Similarly, you can make use of different policies. Like you can say that you should not have these ports open. If someone is trying to open a port, you can define that and say no, this is not allowed, and control it from there. Or for cloud resources, you can say that okay, I should not have uh, resources which are not in these regions. Or you can say that the naming strategy, if you want to go for governance, the namings of resources should be in for a specific format. If that format is not met, don't create the resource. Similarly, you can assign some additional policies as well, and then you can create some policies. If I say go to policy definition here, audit virtual machine without disaster recovery configured. So it basically say that if there is no DR setup for that virtual machine, which is a big potential security issue as well, if you ask me, because uh, if your servers if someone basically ran a ransomware and got access to your systems and they are encrypted, we need to make sure that we have a backup and a disaster recovery setup so that you can, instead of paying a hefty lot of money to the hackers as a ransomware, you can recover it from your DADR scenarios as well from your recovery vault. So I can enable this policies, select this policy. This is a inbuilt policy, and then I can assign this policy to my on-prem resources as well. Now I've assigned in this policy, so this policy will also be violated. So this right now it's not started. Once it scans this, and it will also say that this is not non-compliant because non-compliant because this is also this machine that we have worked on is also not set up for disaster recovery. So if I basically sum it up and go back to my slides, let me quit this one and open my slides. We check for Azure Arc as well. What we do is basically with different offerings like Azure Security Center or Azure Sentinel as well. I didn't talk about Azure Sentinel because it was not in the respect of the time that I talk about Azure Sentinel as well, which is a cloud-based SIM or a source solution. But if you see what happens in a native or a hybrid scenario now is you are secured into from your different workloads, whether it's set up on cloud, which is cloud native, or your workloads which are running on-prem as well. You can use Security Center or different tools like Azure Monitor, Azure Governance with Azure Arc, or something called Azure Sentinel and set up with your hybrid scenarios so that you have security uh, in the same manner that you have for your cloud native resources. Talking just to give you a high level idea or just to give a thought in your mind about Azure Sentinel. So Azure Security Center can be connected to, and they both can be connected to each other with Azure Sentinel. Azure Sentinel is nothing but a cloud native SIM, which is built on top of AI. So it basically looks into, it basically do security monitoring and look for all the threats or issues that is potentially there in your environment. Or if there is someone is trying to hack into the system, someone is doing someone is trying to basically penetrate into the network or trying for a man in the middle attack or any sort of attacks, basically try to identify it and then basically generate alerts and stuff. So it reads the data from Azure Security Center and they basically connects to each other to make your environment more secure. Uh, Azure Security Center can also be connected to your on-premises SIM. One of like I've tried it with something called Outside, which is one of the most popular SIM-based tools, uh, which is not cloud native, and it works quite well from that as well because it takes the logs from my on-premises setup of my SIM tool called Outside, or you can use it any other tool as well, and then connect your SIM tools to as a security center and see the recommendations, and then protect your environment from there as well. Also, it gives you the capability of basically automating and then going to the next level and putting your custom logic. So you can use something called workbook and then use something called logic apps, and then you can create a custom scenarios where you can say, okay, if this happens, basically do this task without writing a single line of code with logic apps. So just go through it and then figure out what is a logic app, and it's quite easy to set up and quite easy to understand because it's designed for the people who are non developers who basically don't understand coding. So it basically gives you API and in a drag and drop manner where you can drag and drop your whole workflow and see, okay, if for example, if there is an error, send me an email and then also create a ticket in the ticket system. So so basically, what you do is basically put a condition. If there is an error, then do this task. It's a simple if else scenario based logic system. that you can integrate it with your security center and Azure Sentinel as well to extend the inbuilt capabilities of Azure Security Center or Azure Sentinel. Yes. Yes. So just to give you a to-do list, what is the best practices that we suggest is basically make sure that you have a good hygiene. So the hygiene score is basically mentioned in the Azure Security Center. Make sure that it's you are doing going through all the recommendations. Turn on the threat protection for all your cloud resources and also for your on-prem resources. Reduce the attacks on your virtual machines with just-in-time access. That means it only gives you the access for the moment of time you're accessing the resources, and then once you're done, the ports are closed for the rest of the time. So basically, if you're trying to access a virtual machine and you are RTP into it, so it use 3389, for example, you can only open it for just for that time, and then once the session is over, it will be closed. So that you're only vulnerable when the time is you actually require it, and then for the rest of the time, it's mostly secure. You integrate your errors into the SIM. So if you have not looked into Azure Sentinel, I think it's one of the best SIM tools out there right now, and I've worked on one of the best tools which are available in the market. So I can say that okay, it's cloud native and it's powered by AI, so it's quite good. And the most important is identify if you have any security incident, then identify the root cause and then uh, fix that issue, and then make sure that how you are going to fight out or remediate those kind of security issues in the future. So that's it from me for today. If you want to go through the slides, you can find it in the following URL, or you can scan it from your mobile phones right now. We have a QR code that you can scan, or you can basically download it from the URL mentioned as well. You can take note of the URL.